We weren't afraid to fail. We knew that times would get hard and we'd have to go through it. This is a hot topic. I feel like a lot of content creators get this question and Etsy sellers get this question. And we had no idea how much headache this would cause as a seller with customer service. It really didn't make it passive anymore.
Hi, everyone. I have a really exciting interview today to share with you with Brenon Dopp. He is Brenon Dopp on YouTube. Definitely check out his channel and subscribe. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce you all to Brenon. He is a full-time Etsy and print-on-demand seller. He started in 2019 and he quit his job in 2019 and traveled. He is the epitome of financial freedom and traveling while doing online business. So besides that, Brenon, if you could introduce yourself, give us a little bit about your story and your journey. I know my subscribers would love to get to know you.
Awesome, Heather. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. So as Heather said, I started this whole journey of selling print on demand began in 2019. I was working a job that I didn't necessarily love. I had very little flexibility. I worked most weekends. I worked holidays often, and I missed out on a lot of big events that I wish I could have attended. And so I was looking for a change of pace in life and a change of environment to have more flexibility and more freedom. It was also during a transition period where my wife was finishing up her college degree. And so she just graduated and we had decided that we wanted to travel abroad and figure out a way to earn money online. So this was the end of 2019. And then the beginning of 2020, as you know, the world turned upside down. It was the beginning of the pandemic. And so a lot of travel restrictions were put in place. Countries closed to international travel and we were no longer able to go. So we had a one-way ticket bought to Bali, Indonesia, and we were going to travel throughout Southeast Asia. And we were doing all of our research in the meantime to figure out how to make money online. And one of the videos we came across was selling print on demand. And I remember several years ago, I've heard of the topic of print on demand, but it seemed too good to be true, and I didn't trust the idea at all. So I kind of put it on the back burner. But fast forward in March, I opened our Etsy shop right after I learned about print on demand. And a few weeks later, our shop was suspended. And so it got put on the back burner. Rest of that time, the world continued to get crazier and crazier. And we ended up moving to near my wife's family so we could spend time with family until we could figure out what was going to happen, if we were able to go on a trip or not, and when we would go. Fast forward 2020, the entire world shut down. We couldn't do anything. So we were able to just focus 100% on our shop. And so it wasn't until June of 2020 when we started to go full force on our Etsy shop and creating listings and figuring out how to run it all. Next month, July, is when we had our first sale and we sold a t-shirt. And then a few hours later, that same day in July, we sold 2 mugs. And it was at that point where it's like a reality check. We're like, whoa, there's actually something to this. A random stranger connected with us and they found our listing and they bought it. And then the rest of that year, things continued to grow as we began to get more reviews and more sales. Our shop continued to scale. End of that year, 2020, during the fall time and Christmas time, was our best months of 2020, where we were averaging between 15 to 30 sales every single day. And at that time, we're like, okay, this could be something more than just a little side hobby to earn money. We stuck with it. Come 2021, we continued to grow our shop, and that's when we were able to start traveling more often. So we did trips throughout Central America, and then here throughout the United States is where my wife and I are located, and continue to grow our shop. Then come 2022 is when we were finally able to do our initial trip that we planned from the very beginning, and we moved to Southeast Asia. We traveled throughout Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia, and then Thailand. And while doing all of this, we were working remote, 100% selling on Etsy and making money passively while we were traveling. And the reason why I shared so many details, Heather, and for those of you that are listening, is because I am no different than you. I just had the desire to start, and I had a reason to start. I had my why. I wanted to travel. My wife and I love traveling, and we wanted to figure out a way to fund that. And also, we weren't afraid to fail. We knew that times would get hard, and we'd have to go through it. And we just made the decision at the beginning that we're not going to quit, no matter how hard it is. And because we have stuck with it, it has allowed us to be where we are at now, where we can do exactly what we want, have as much flexibility as we want, and have the freedom to do what we love the most, which is to be able to travel and spend time with our closest friends and our family.
Yeah, I love that part of your story so much, that you had that goal to travel and you're able to travel with your business. And that's a lot of things that a lot of other online businesses don't particularly have. With print on demand, I feel like that just opens up the ability to travel with this type of business, because you're not fulfilling the orders and, printing, packing, and shipping your own items on Etsy. And that is just so cool that you guys could travel with everything going on. So I kind of wanted to see and pick your brain on, what tips do you have as far as traveling and working on your Etsy store for those who want to kind of pursue the same path that you and your wife did?
Okay, that's a great question. I think depending on location, for our situation, we were in Southeast Asia, so we were roughly 7 to 10 hours ahead. So it worked out perfect for us. We could explore during the day, and then at night is when we could get our work done and do what we need to do. But for tips for traveling while selling on Etsy, I think it's important, and I say this from experience because we weren't the best at it, is to cut out a specific time of day and discipline yourself enough to make sure you work during that time of day. Because it's very easy once you're abroad to just want to travel and not really do anything. And the beauty of doing the dirty work at first on Etsy is you really can build out your store and make money passively, but there is still maintenance that you need to do with customer service and other things to continue to grow your store. So I think that'd be the first tip, is cut out time to really work. And then another thing is to make sure you set yourself up for success. So have the tools required. So a portable laptop, the Sell on Etsy app is a great thing. You really can just work almost 100% from your phone, responding to messages, but really building it out so that you are prepared to be 100% remote and not need to have like a base camp for it. But yeah, I'd say that's the biggest thing. And then just know that you need to be flexible and disciplined to have success.
Yeah, I love those tips so much. I think I have not traveled to the degree that you and your wife have, but me and my fiance, we travel maybe once or twice a month, which is more than, average people, I'd say, at least, or I'd like to think. But we just went on a long trip to the UK. And while I was doing that trip, I was like, oh man, how do I check my Etsy so often? So I guess that's kind of one of my questions, where I was like, oh, what tips can I ask Brenon during this interview as well for my own self? But I agree. I think like downtime, for anyone who's watching, the best advice is scheduling out that time while you're traveling. And that's one of the beautiful parts of Etsy and print on demand, is once you build your business, before you take that long trip. So when we're talking about building the business and kind of having the foundations of your business built, that's usually the listing amount, that you have on your Etsy and print on demand store. Then once you have those listings, you can kind of travel, because they kind of sell themselves over time if you did SEO and you went into those good niches and things like that. So how many listings, if you don't mind sharing, do you have now? And how many do you think it took until you saw that scaling in your store where you got 15 to 30 sales a day?
Yeah, great question. This is a hot topic. I feel like a lot of content creators get this question and Etsy sellers get this question, but currently I just checked, we have 330 active listings, so not a whole lot, but we have 228 expired listings, and most of those expired listings are our seasonal items, so they are no longer selling as much, and so they have expired. But I don't think there is a magic number. And I think that quality is far more important than quantity. But with this, I think the best thing you can do is have a large quantity of high quality listings. Because I agree, it is a numbers game on Etsy. The more lines you have in the water, the more chances you'll have at reaching someone and potentially making a sale. So I don't think there's a magic number, but if you're able to discipline yourself to make 1 to 5 listings every single day, and they're all high quality with proven SEO, with trending elements, I can promise you that you will eventually have success on Etsy. Because it is a numbers game, but they have to be quality. Because I feel like I get so many people who will reach out to me on my channel and they'll say, I have 2,000 listings and I've only made 50 sales or whatever it is. And then they'll have me go and look at their shop. And sure enough, looking at their listings, they're not reaching that benchmark of quality. So it's very hard to convert someone on that listing. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that is perfect. I think about that too when, we're talking about quantity versus quality. And even for my store, I'm at 500 listings. And I know a lot of people have asked me the same, where they're like, hey, can you look over my store? I have over 1,000 listings, but I'm not seeing that scaling that you saw in your store initially. And like our stores, we've had a really great scaling time, but it's kind of down to that point of quality versus quantity. So So I guess my next question would be, do you focus on more seasonally based niches or evergreen niches? And also, to preface for anyone watching this interview who doesn't know what evergreen versus seasonal are, evergreen are niches that generally are consistent sale volumes over a year's time frame, and seasonal is usually like the holiday types of niches that are Christmas, Easter, and they only sell during, those times where you'll see some scaling in your store. So, yeah.
Thank you. So to answer your question, I think you would miss out on a lot of opportunity if you just picked one, because you can really Q4 through the fall season, especially Halloween and Christmas, especially Halloween. I don't know why it is, but Halloween sells so well on Etsy, at least for us in our store. And so it's a great opportunity to sell seasonal that way, but also throughout the entire year. There's a lot of different holidays that you can create listings for, but then at the same time, it's so important to have your evergreen listings, because when those holidays pass, your store will decrease in sales if you don't have a lot of evergreen listings. So yeah, I think it's important to have a balance of both and make sure you're designing for both. But when you hear seasonal, I think it's important to not just like create a Merry Christmas sweatshirt. It's trend combining like towards doctors or the medical profession and incorporating it with something related to whatever holiday you're designing for. But yeah, to answer that, it's designed for both, and you will have a lot of opportunity to make a lot of good sales.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a good thing that you added in there about that you kind of need to narrow down the holidays. And that's something that I've kind of harped on my channel, is just narrowing your holidays rather than just going into a really broad category on Etsy where you're going to have problems breaking through market saturation, because everyone's doing a Merry Christmas sweater come, Christmas time in October, November, and December. That's all you're going to see. And it's kind of really hard to break through that market. So I love that idea. And do you currently do any types of personalization on your store at all? Or do you just stick to kind of already made types of designs?
Great question. In the beginning stages, we did a lot of experimenting, trying a lot of different things, trying to get anything to work for us. So in the beginning, we did jump towards doing all personalization. So we'd create a listing. We'd have over 20 plus shirt color options. And then the customer would choose their shirt color option as well as the color of the design they want. And then in their personalization box, they'd include that. And we had no idea how much headache this would cause as a seller with customer service. It really didn't make it passive anymore. It made it very hands-on and a lot of work. So there are shops that do well with it. For us, it didn't work for us. So we shifted gears towards doing not personalization being an option, but we would enable it in our stores. So if you go to your shop homepage, on the left-hand side below your listings, it says request a custom order. We have that enabled so someone can request a custom order, and then we can talk over our messaging and figure out what it is and if it is something that we would do or want to do or spend the time to do it. But as of right now, we don't have any listings that are personalizable, but they do have the option to personalize something. And we do a lot of personalized orders, but it's very specific, and if it works within our designability and if we want to spend time on it. But something on that too, if you do decide to do personalization, it's so important to charge for your time. In the beginning, there are a lot of times when we would create this personalized order, spend so much time designing it for them just to back out, and we make nothing on it, and we're just out the time and the money. So it's important to charge up front and then making sure that you're charging enough for your time. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that tip because I feel like a lot of people do undersell their personalization listings. And even I had a video a while back for personalization ornaments, and a lot of people were commenting on that video saying, hey, this personalization ornament, it's so hard to compete with the other personalization ornaments because they're only charging $7.99 for these ornaments. And I told a lot of people, you should be pricing at $19.99 because although you might have that competition, you're still not factoring in the time that it's going to take you to edit those. And like you said, it does become not passive where it's like, oh man, I'm working hours and hours on my store. And even, if you were to travel or anything like that, it's a lot of upfront work with just doing that alone. So that's where I kind of wanted to ask my next question for you, which is how much time do you think that you allocate to Etsy per week now since you kind of built your store?
Yeah, so the beginning stages, we definitely were putting a lot of hours in. I'd say more than 40 hours a week. We were full force on it, trying to get it to grow and figuring out how to scale it. Now, though, we have backed off, and there isn't a set amount, but we will spend in a day 3 hours to 5 hours a day to 8 hours, or some days we won't work at all. And that's the beauty of doing print on demand and selling on Etsy is you have the flexibility to work when you want and to not work when you don't want to. So on average, I'd say we average between 20 to 30 hours a week, but that fluctuates throughout the weeks and the time of year and depending on what we are doing. But what's crazy with that, it's like because we've done the upfront work and we've laid the groundwork and built the foundation for our store, to this day, some of our best sellers are designs that we created 2.5 years ago, and they're still making us money today. And it's because we did the groundwork. And so it really frees up your time and you don't have to do as much work because of it.
I love that so much. That's how my store is, where my initial listings that I created in 2021 are still selling to this day. And that's what's carried over into this year. And this year, I haven't really made many new listings. I think I've made maybe 50 listings in 2022. So that's kind of just to put in perspective how awesome that is when you kind of do, that groundwork initially. So as far as your products in your store, do you stick to one product type or have you branched out to different products, maybe on like a best-selling design? Did you take that and put that on maybe like a mug and a tank top and all of that?
Great question. Again, the beginning stages, we did a lot of experimenting. We were selling mugs, we were selling clothing, we were doing wall art, we were selling stickers, we were trying everything and anything that would work. But now, as we've kind of figured out the system for our shop, and our system isn't going to be your system, it's different for everyone, but now we are primarily selling clothing. So we sell the Bella Canvas 3001, and we choose that. Yes, it's more expensive than your Gildan, but it's because we like the quality better and our customers tend to like the quality better. And we also sell the Gildan 18,000 sweatshirts, but we do occasionally, we still have a few mug listings, but they don't sell that often, but we do sell them from time to time. But I guess advice on that is you have to be willing to experiment and try out different things. And like Heather said, if you have something that works and selling on a t-shirt, it's a no-brainer to double down on it and put it on a tote bag or on a mug or whatever product it is, because you have the ability to do that with print on demand. Your options are endless. So yeah, we primarily sell clothing right now.
Yeah, I love that. That's kind of the composition of my store as well, is just doing sweatshirts and the t-shirts. And I think the Gildan 18,000 is surprisingly still just such a winning type of product right now. And I thought it would die down, but it's still very, very popular as far as product types go. So I guess just kind of wrapping up this interview, if you were to start in 2023, is there anything that you would do similar to when you started or anything that you would do differently? And any advice for anyone who's starting in 2023?
For sure. So a lot of lessons have been learned over the past 2.5 to 3 years that we've been selling on Etsy. The first advice I would have is to schedule time off. I think it's so important to have the opportunity to reset both mentally and creatively, because it's so easy to burn yourself out if you're not taking time off for yourself and tending to your needs. And I've learned the more strict we were on taking time off and scheduling time off. And when I say off, I mean off, like not checking orders that come in past 5 p.m. or on the weekends, just completely disengaging. It allowed us to be so much more productive when we were on and when we were working. So that'd be the biggest thing. Create a schedule. And when you're off, you are off. And with that, you can set on auto replies so that you're not worrying about responding to customers on the weekends, and you can very easily take care of your customer service that way. The next piece of advice I would give is focus on the things that are most important. A phrase I hear often of entrepreneurs is, oh, today I'm just putting out fires, meaning they're just like tending to little things that they have to take care of. But my mantra I've built over the past it's been as of recent, but it's been created over the past few years, is to build fires, not put out fires. And so focus on the things that are going to really grow your business, be intentional with your time. And the most important thing you can do in your Etsy store is to create high quality listings. That's the fastest way to grow your shop. You don't need to worry about the details of your banner, of your about section, because most people are shopping directly through that specific listing. Rarely do they click through to your store. So focus on what's most important to grow your shop would be the next tip. The next thing is to always be willing to learn, improve, and implement. And there's so many resources on YouTube and online where you can learn how to continue to grow your shop. One being tuning into Heather's channel and learning how to grow your shop. She does a great job of walking you through step by step on how to really scale your shop, but always be learning because things are always changing. And then last two pieces of advice is to make sure you're designing for others, not just for yourself. In the beginning, we would often design for ourselves and we'd miss out on a lot of opportunities because it wasn't something that we necessarily wear, so we didn't want to add it to our store. But once we shifted gears and we started designing for others is when we really saw our store start to take off. And when I say design for others, I don't mean you have to like completely cut off all creativity and not do anything you like. You can add your own creativity into it. But let's say you don't like leopard print. Don't be afraid to create a design with leopard print if it's selling or something like that. It's just an example. And then the last piece of advice I'd have is to make sure you are creating systems to save you time and to grow your business. And you can do this by investing in yourself and in your business by purchasing different tools. So some examples is like product research tools, SEO tools, as well as graphic design tools. There's a lot of different options out there, but this can save you so much time and not only save you time, but can really take your business to the next level, whereas you couldn't do on your own. And then last thing is just don't be afraid to start today because there's so much opportunity and to stick with it when times get hard because times will get hard.
I love those tips so much. And I think that's so valuable to people who are just starting in 2023 and that really want to grow their businesses. I think taking time for yourself as well as starting a business, I know that seems opposite, but I feel like that is so important, you know, as when you're beginning. I know for myself, I was at that point where I was continuously working on my Etsy shop while working a full-time job. And even when you're doing that, it's, 20 to 30 hours when you're starting up just to get to that state where you can quit your 9 to 5. And I had to realize, hey, I need to take one day off during the week for myself. So like Saturday or Sunday, I would not work. I'd log out of my Etsy store and email, and I would do one of those like time blocks on my phone, but even investing into yourself, into your business, on mock-ups. And like you said, research tools, software for graphic design that can really up level your business in 2023. So thank you so much for just coming on my channel. Again, everyone, subscribe to Brenon Dopp on YouTube. I'll link him down below as well, where you can check him out. He has so many great YouTube tips for Etsy and print on demand as well. So be sure to check him out there. But thank you so much for coming on my channel today, Brenon.
Thank you so much, Heather. It's good to be on.